Next up at UFC 312, we have Jimmy Crute taking on Rodolfo Bellato. Jimmy Crute coming out of retirement. And the question becomes, is he coming out of retirement because he's still got it? Or is he coming out of retirement because sort of a pipe dream to fight on a pay-per-view main card at home? But we got Jimmy Crute 12-4 on a very unfortunate 1-3-1 last 5 while coming out of retirement, taking on Rodolfo Bellato, 12-2 in his career. 4-1 in his last 5. He is on a 4-fight win streak. Jimmy Crute, before the retirement, decent wrestler. He averages about 5 takedowns per fight. And what I like to point out about a lot of these wrestlers that average a lot of takedowns is that it means that there's not a lot of control. If you took down somebody 5 times, that means they stood up 4. Maybe you want to include the round. Great. They still stood up 3. And that means that he's never truly out of trouble, because if he can't hold you down, you can get up and you can make it kind of a problem for him. That's what Alonzo Menafield did in the first matchup, and the second matchup was obviously very different. He's not a pure grappler, though. The striking is decent. Overall, kind of a well-rounded guy. As I mentioned, coming back after retirement, and it was a loss to Alonzo Menafield about 1.5 years ago. Just hung it up right then and there. Taking on Rodolfo Bellato. He's a heavy-handed grappler who's going to come forward, bomb away, stick around for a slug fight. He is a grappler. Ultimately, he wants these fights on the ground. His takedowns definitely need a little bit of work. Once he gets to the ground, he's got solid control. He will chase submissions. You'll see that he has 2 losses in his career. They are both to Vitor Petrino. Before you say Vitor Petrino's a fraud, he's still at least a physical specimen that has had some success outside of a wild knockout in the late 3rd round and a fluke submission. He's coming off that finish win over Ihor Peteria, where he looked stiff, he looked slow, was lumbering, and overall pretty bad. And I am making this entire breakdown off of that last Rodolfo Bellato fight. I thought he looked horrendous. I thought he looked miserable, can't win a fight, no idea how he's in the UFC bad. And that had me thinking, I got to go Jimmy Crute here. And then I go to the Jimmy Crute side, and it's like, this guy looked pretty awful before he retired. And now I have no idea how he's going to look coming out of retirement. Is he Al Iaquinta? Is he selling homes on the weekend, and the only reason he's coming out of retirement is because he wants to fight on a pay-per-view main card? Or did he sit down, heal up, let the dust settle, and say, hey, I'm still a pretty young guy. I should continue doing this. I love it. I feel great. He said, I'm too good at this to not do it. His recent record would indicate otherwise. I actually am going to pick Jimmy Crute here. My money won't be within 1,000 yards of this fight, and I'm ultimately picking Jimmy Crute because I do think he's the better of the two, which is a crazy thing to say if you watch his last 5 fights. What do you think, Jakey boy?
Yeah, there's no way I'm ever going to pick Jimmy Crute in any type of fight. I don't care who he's fighting. The most frustrating situation of all time was Alonzo Menafield was my lock of the week against Jimmy Crute, and with fucking Fat Barry in his dumbass corner, they had like a wrestling game plan for some reason. So why the fuck are you wrestling Jimmy Crute? That's kind of what he does at his core. He wants to wrestle, he wants to grapple. I know he's got power in his hands, but the guy does not move his fucking head. The guy, he's one of the worst defensive strikers I have ever seen in the UFC, not just in any division, in any era, and women's and men's and transsexual fighting. I've never seen anybody with worse defensive striking. If you're Alonzo Menafield, you just go in there and you just punch him in the face. But Fat Barry had this wild-ass game plan. It took Alonzo Menafield 5 fucking rounds to beat this guy, and he ended up fucking submitting him. But it's like, you just punch this guy in the fucking face. You just punch him in the fucking face. I have to imagine that's what Rodolfo is going to do, but maybe he isn't, right? So the only thing I'm playing, and I think there's still value. The fight does not go to this is minus 220. I think something's going to happen here. Either Jimmy Crute's going to show up, a new Jimmy Crute, and you mentioned, I don't think Rodolfo's that great either. He's my pick. I'm not going to fucking put money on this guy, even as much I hate Jimmy Crute, right? But either Jimmy Crute shows up in front of the home fans and shows out, and he's shown he's got power in his hands and he can do some stuff on the ground, right? And you mentioned that Rodolfo has been chinned, or he's going to be the same Jimmy Crute and he's going to put his head on the center line. He's going to get fucking knocked out. To me, it seems like there's a finish either way. And at minus 220, that's the way I'm playing this fight. I think somebody finishes somebody, but so honestly, I don't give a fuck who wins as long as somebody finishes somebody. But for a pick, there's no way I'm ever picking Jimmy Crute. The guy literally retired because he realized he wasn't good enough, and then you start convincing yourself again once you're in the gym just, sparring people that aren't UFC fighters. right? You're like, oh, I can do this, and then you run into a UFC fighter again, and it's like, and maybe Rodolfo isn't a UFC fighter, right? Because he's not an established guy, and Jimmy Crute wasn't losing to terrible people, right? But that defensive striking is fucking abysmal. I'm going for Rodolfo, but I'm playing this fight to not go the distance.
I literally based my entire thing off Rodolfo's last fight. And maybe that's not the way to do it. UFC debut, jitters, whatever. Maybe that's not the way to do it, but I was like, man, you were struggling against Ihor Potieria.
But Ihor's a fucking really good striker.
He is, but Rodolfo...
Offensively, he's a really good striker.
But Rodolfo's supposed to be a grappler, and he was just like a lurch, flopping around, just exhausted. I don't have a bet lined up for this fight, and I don't know if I will.
Ihor Potieria and Jimmy Crute, I would take Ihor to knock that dude out in 2 minutes.
Knock out Jimmy Crute? Yeah, because he's not going to try to tie him up. He's just going to start swinging and marching forward.
Poor Ihor.
Yeah, he did have a little bit of a rough run. I do also know that Discord's already been putting my face on Rodolfo's body. They did it his last fight. And I'm going to get spammed with it on Saturday. Not really a resemblance. I don't know where that could possibly come from. I look nothing like this guy.
You wish. This could almost be me versus you.
They could be like an alternative universe of us, I guess. Yeah.
In that case, I'm taking Jimmy.
You're like, yeah, he's pretty fast. He's tall. All the things.
You guys submitted Paul Craig, for God's sake.
Craig. Did he really?
Yeah,
wow.
Camored him of all the submissions. Isn't that so wild?
Yeah. The answer is yeah, the genuine yes. Especially Paul Craig's supposed to be that guy.
It's weird to see Paul Craig on his back getting fucking camored, unless he did it from guard or something. But I can't imagine Paul Craig on top either. So I don't know. I can't remember how it played out. I just know that's what happened.
Yeah, I don't do that far back. At a certain point, everything's changed, so it doesn't matter anymore. But $7,700 in DraftKings Fantasy for Jimmy Crute, $8,500 for Rodolfo Bellato. If you're in the Jacob camp here and you think something happens and somebody gets finished, then pick your side, because both of those are good value if there is a finish. You can check out WeWantPicks.com. All the picks, all the bets, all the tools, everything. Literally, you head into a fight weekend, you have everything you could ever need, and you can have it on your phone with A, a mobile browser, or B, the app. Go to the App Store, search We Want Picks. It's 100% free. Download that app, turn on notifications, and you are off to the races. $1.99 from Michael Barquette. Rodolfo looks like Alex Pereira with hair. Now, Alex is way better looking than Rodolfo. Rodolfo's got something going on. I don't know what it is. It's like a gene issue. I look nothing like this guy. Nothing like him.